We're live.
Hey, good evening. Good evening, guys. So, we're going to call the regular meeting to order. It is now 7 o'clock. Requirements of the Sunshine Law have been met. This meeting was advertised in the Burlington County Times on January the 6th, 2023. Electronic notice was given pursuant to the NJAC 5:39-1.5. We will now start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will now have a moment of silence. Typically, we don't have a title to our moment of silence, but today we will have a moment of silence for our retired police officer, John Polk, who recently passed away. Roll call.
Committeewoman Berkeley.
Present.
Committeeman Carr.
Here.
Committeewoman Mungo.
Present.
Mayor Henley.
Present.
Committeewoman Wright.
Present.
I will now read a proclamation honoring retired police officer John Polk. Whereas retired West Hampton Township Police Officer John H. Polk Jr. of Willingboro passed away Sunday, July 23, 2023, and whereas Officer Polk served with the West Hampton Township Police Department for over 25 years as a patrol officer, over 12 years as the head of security for the Burlington County Institute of Technology of West Hampton, and was a U.S. Army veteran during the Vietnam era until his honorable discharge, and whereas Officer Polk served the West Hampton Township community between 1979 and 1999, and in the capacity of police officer during those years of service, and whereas as a longtime public servant to the residents of West Hampton Township and the United States of America, Officer John H. Polk Jr. demonstrated how successful an individual can be in participating with the municipality and his neighbors to enhance the quality of life in West Hampton Township. Now, therefore, I, Sandy Henley, Mayor of Township of West Hampton, on behalf of the Township Committee and all citizens of West Hampton, thank and honor and memorial offer Officer John H. Polk Jr. for his dedication, service, and for his ongoing contribution to this community and to the Township of West Hampton. We will now do a presentation honoring Police Chief Steve that he knows nothing about. So this is a bit of a surprise for him.
Come on in, everybody. Oh.
You surprised?
Mayor, if I could have a few words, please. I'm Brian Ferguson. I'm the police lieutenant for West Hampton Township. And on behalf of everyone here tonight, family, friends, officers, We're taking this time to honor Chief Stephen Ent. This is his last official township meeting that he has to come to. After that, it's up to him if he wants to stop by and visit. So on behalf of that, Chief, we got you a special award that says the West Hampton Township Police Department wishes you a happy retirement with sincere appreciation of your many years of service, with great honor and recognition for your loyal and dedicated service to the residents of West Hampton Township. We, your brothers and sisters, present this to you as a symbol of a lifelong friendship. And your dates of service were January 10th, 2000 till August 31st, 2023.
I don't know who put everybody up to this, but thank you. This was actually planned to be Andrew Redfield tonight, so I don't want to take anything away. It's been a long career. I've enjoyed myself a lot here. I've grown a lot. I've worked with these wonderful officers in the back and here. Some officers I haven't specifically worked with on the street, but I hired them. It's been a great feeling, and it's been an honor to work with everybody here. And there's been a lot of ups and downs over the last 25 years, but we came through, we pushed through, and we did it. Usually if you know me, typically if I have something that I have to say publicly, I usually have it written down, I'm usually reading the script, but this is kind of just going off the cuff. So again, I want to thank everybody back here, and I've been police chief here for 6 years. It's been a long time. We've been through a lot. The civil unrest we went through with George Floyd, it was just a lot of work. And if it wasn't for everybody here that I worked with over the course of my career here, we wouldn't be able to get through it. So it's been a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and I appreciate it. So again, I want to thank the committee for everything that you've done. I was here before all of you. So I've seen a lot of people come and go, but you guys have done nothing but support me throughout my whole tenure here as chief, and I appreciate that. Speaking with Wendy, I really appreciate everything you've done for me over the years. Also, Ryan and Ray Harrison and Jim Brady, the previous administrators, have done a tremendous job and supported me and doing everything. To my family, I can't thank you guys enough. It's not the place. Everyone has to go through. It's not easy. It's not easy being a family at the top. Everybody knows it. It's not easy at all. The nights, the weekends, the pressures, the things you bring home. If anything tonight, just think about the officers in the room and think about what they have to go through. That's all I ask. But honestly, it's been great to serve the community of West Hampton. I grew up here for a period of time, and it's been a great place to live. I've enjoyed it. I've developed a lot of great relationships over the last 24 years. Some are here tonight. Some I've recently met the last couple of years. Mr. Harper in the back, I've been with him for 25 years. He's always on me, but we get through things, we push through. So again, I've seen generations of families come up, and it's been great. So again, I kind of wasn't expecting all this. Again, this is supposed to be AJ's night, not myself, so I'm not taking anything away. But again, at least, I really appreciate everybody coming out, and my family coming out. Thank you.
We'll now proceed with Resolution 122-23, resolution promotion of Sergeant Andrew Redfield. Do we have a motion?
Motion. Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Berkeley,
Yes.
Carr,
Yes.
Mungo,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Mayor Henley.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
We will now do the oath for the sergeant. So, I, Andrew Redfield, solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to do the same,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and to the governments established in the United States
and to the governments established in the United States
and in this state,
and in this state,
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully, partially,
and justly perform all duties of sergeant
and justly perform all duties of sergeant,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
I'd like to thank everybody once again for coming out for AJ's promotion. You know, he's been a very deserving officer here. He works for the grand office department, and he continues to do the same thing. So I want to thank all of his staff members for coming today and supporting him, all the officers in our office for supporting him. So again, thank you for all the work he's done. He's done a great job for everything here. So thank you, AJ, great job. I'm not going to speak. Take a small break. Is that
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just going to take a small break.
Okay, we're live again.
So, and onward and upward. So we're going to continue on. We're going to have a workshop about the neighborhood fences.
Mayor, would you like me to head that off?
Sure.
Okay. So some of the residents have been questioning whether we can change our ordinance to allow other types of fencing in certain neighborhoods. Right now, it's very restrictive to a board-on-board fence within some of the neighborhoods that are more connected with the single-family homes. This was brought to the committee about 3 years ago, and the decision was that it was to remain board on board, but we're going to open it up to discussion tonight for any of the residents who have any questions or would like to bring things to the committee's attention. And if the committee would like to speak on behalf of the fences.
So I'll say quickly before we start, I know I spoke to Monica earlier today, and so there's been more than one resident that's kind of pulled to the side about where they feel like a vinyl fence is probably a little bit better than the wood fences at this point, and the fact that many don't maintain the wood fences, and the vinyl fences probably are a bit easier to maintain. Now, the other side of the coin is that I know in Deerwood, someone put up vinyl fences, and the neighbors aren't really happy because they have their own guidelines where it should be rail fences. So that's a little bit of just, I want the committee to be abreast of what the discussions were and what's going on. And if you would like to speak, or anybody else, but I know
My name is Wayne G.
the mic.
I am the brother of Monica Nguyen, who resides at 17 Westwind Way. She's been there for 2 years now, and she wants to put up a fencing, but, the wood fence it gets old and withered and termites, and it's too much to maintain. The PVC, we can get it the same color as the wood, it's easy to clean, easy to maintain. And that's all I'm here to say is this: I understand it's a 30-year ordinance. I mean, we don't want to we're not here to change anything, against anybody else's wood. I'm sorry if somebody else has the wooden fence, but it's time to change. That's what we really want to say. That's it. It's please.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
So I spoke a couple months ago requesting the fence ordinance to be changed as well. My wife and I were one of the first families.
Sir, I'm sorry, can you state your name and address?
Sure, it's Robert Frunholtz, 19 Fieldcrest Drive. And we were one of the first families back in the Spring Meadows, not knowing what it was back 20, 25 years ago, but my belief was they put the fence ordinance in like that because at the time there was really wooden board fences and chain link fencing. And I think looking back at it now, it was a new development and they didn't want the chain link fencing. So that's why I believe that ordinance was put in place. We've had a wood fence for 20 years. I've power washed it. I've restained it 3 or 4 different times, and it's on its last leg. So we're at the point now where we're looking to change fencing, and I'd really like to go with the vinyl fencing. I think it makes the neighborhood cleaner, crisper. As a gentleman back there said, I believe it's also easier to maintain, a little power washing here and there, whereas the wood fencing, it takes a little bit more time and consideration to take care of it. So that's my 2 cents, and thank you very much for your time for listening.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Do you have anyone else?
Mayor, I have a question. I have been told that some of these places have it in their deed restriction. So is it in deed restrictions, or is it township that's not allowing vinyl fences? I don't know if it's in a deed restriction, we can change that.
It's in Deerwood, I know it's in their deed restriction. But in all fairness, there are people who have vinyl fencing, and there's really not anything that the township can do. So they have to actually go to civil suit with the person who has the fencing, which no one ever does. So I don't know that it makes a lot of sense to have an ordinance that we really can't do anything about if someone does it, right? The only way we can do something about it is if someone comes here and they say, I'm going to put in a vinyl fence, and we say, oh, well, that's against the deed restriction. You can't do that, right? But if that person then turns around and does it anyway, we really don't have a lot of recourse because... Go ahead.
No, that's untrue. If they put up a fence after our ordinance has been set, it becomes a code enforcement issue. They can be cited and they can be made to take it down.
Right. Well, we haven't done that, is what I'm saying. Like, and when I've talked about it with Bob said it's going to be tough to fight, right? Like, so it costs more than it's worth. It's going to be tough to fight. One, for them to take it down, and secondly, it's going to be tough to fight when it's a resident against a resident. So, no, but I don't know that that answers the question, but that's kind of what's been going on. Like, I went to Deerwood to see what a resident called me, complained. I went to Deerwood to see what they were talking about. I saw what they were talking about. I talked to everyone here about it. So, and then the young lady, Monica, asked about the same thing, and I know that we talked about it 3 years ago. So I don't know what we can do if it's deed-restricted. Like that, we would need Bob here for that.
It can be written into the language of the ordinance that any neighborhood that has a deed restriction must be followed through their deed restriction. So we can name that in the language of the ordinance. It just needs to be made very clear so that there's no ambiguity.
I would say that's good, because then people would be going them against us kind of thing if we didn't say that.
But, so if we do that, though, then where's that leave, like, Deerwood or...
Deerwood has deed restrictions, so the homeowner would have to follow the deed restrictions. If they do put up a fence and it's in violation of our ordinance, we can enforce that.
No, I agree with that. But what about, does Spring Meadows have a deed restriction?
I would have to look to see, but...
Because my understanding is Spring Meadows, you have to have wood on wood, and I think in Rolling Hills, you have to have wood on wood,
Yes.
which is a deed restriction as well.
So if it was put in, as Wendy said, that here's what we want, but if you have a deed restriction, that takes precedence over our ordinance. And then you don't have to say Spring Meadows and all these places.
But the deed restriction, will that still limit them from putting in vinyl fencing, right? Because the deed restriction is that they can't have vinyl fencing.
Right. So
So if we say that it has to go to the deed restriction, then we're still at the same place.
So if we name that in the language, that the deed restrictions must be followed for the neighborhoods, that's enforceable. because it's in our ordinance. So if it's in township code, solidified by township code, we can enforce it.
Aside from enforcing it, I think that what people want is to be able to have.
But if it's against their deed restriction, they would not be able to put a fence up.
And we have no say in the deed restriction at all.
Are people allowed to have chain link fences?
There's only certain neighborhoods that are restrictive to the board on board. Every other neighborhood pretty much is open to the type of fence that they want to put up.
Personally, I think chain link fences are pretty ugly.
So, I think we need Bob to be able to talk about this a little further, because there's got to be a way. Like, so if somebody made the rule 30 years ago.
Well, I guess I'm hearing like we could change the ordinance where you could put up in any neighborhood, any fence you'd like, but per your deed restriction, you must follow that. So then they would have to possibly not be able to put it up anyway.
Correct.
And then there's no way of getting around that? Like, how does a
There's gotta be a
resident
way of getting
get around the deed restriction? No? Like, how do you use that?
That I can't answer, unfortunately. That would be a solicitor
So
question.
while we're waiting for, yes. How far out was Bob?
He's here.
Okay.
It's Gary Brown, 138 Winstead. So I have a couple of thoughts on the fences. I live in Rolling Hills East. In my understanding on the ordinance, number one, and I had tried to raise this, was whether the ordinance was actually in force. Because it's not actually in the code book. And I'm talking about the actual paper code book that's in the clerk's office. That's where it has to be published by law, by operation of law. Those of us that went to law school, we know that if it's not there, then it technically doesn't exist. So that's sort of issue number one. The second sort of piece of that is that when that ordinance was enacted 30-plus years ago, as Wendy points out, it was in 3 developments, correct? Now, those 3 developments, if my understanding is correct, were developments that included low-income homes that were in development for affordability purposes. That's a euphemism or a code word. I know that, and you know that. So, in a way, that is somewhat discriminatory, because it only impacts those developments that had those homes with those designations. Okay? You follow what I'm saying?
I do.
Okay. The other aspect of this is that there are non-conforming fences already in existence in these developments. The other aspect of this to keep in mind is that in many of the developments where there's connected blocks of the townhomes, one home theoretically could own the fence on either side. So then the neighbor theoretically would say, well, I'm not erecting a fence. I'm erecting a designed wall. And they could, presumably, without violating the ordinance, theoretically erect a wall that looks just like a vinyl fence. The other aspect of that is that the code requirements force us to get 2 surveys. So that, by licensed surveyors of some sort of designation, so that impacts us additionally for the economic cost. So if we want to install a new fence, not only are we dealing with having where the government is now forcing us to enter the stream of commerce in only one way. And my lawyer friend here is nodding. He's like, oh, I don't like where this is going. Because everybody knows where this is going, right? When the government tries to force consumers into the stream of commerce and give you one choice, there's a high burden that you have to overcome. Okay. So you're restricting homeowners from purchasing fences that theoretically could be cheaper, could be better for the environment, that could provide safety and aesthetic enhancements to their property and actually improve and increase the value of their home. And for those of us that lived in Rolling Hills East a number of years ago, there was a police action that involved the police trying to pursue someone who robbed the Wawa. Do you recall? You guys remember that? He came through our neighborhoods and was hopping easily to hurdle fences. Imagine if it was your family in the backyard, and they could easily hurdle over a 4.5 to 5 foot fence. It's difficult to do it at a 6 foot fence level. So there's a lot of different things to think about, but right next to where we live, in Rolling Hills East, on Amara Lane there, they have every imaginable fence that you could think of: chain link, vinyl, picket, shadow box, board on board, solid. The big difference is that none of those homes are designated for affordable housing. That's the only difference. And I don't think that those homes with those different fences degrade or decrease the value of those properties there. Thank you.
Thank you. So what do you guys think?
Can I ask Bob the question?
Go ahead.
Bob, Mr. Wright, the question is, should we amend our ordinance to lift,
The microphone.
should we amend our ordinance to lift any prohibition on wood fences while staying silent on any deed restrictions? Who would be empowered to enforce those deed restrictions on wood fences?
So I see them as two separate issues. And I can't answer the question on whether you should or not. That's up to you. Whether you're empowered to, yes, you're empowered to change the ordinances to eliminate the requirement for board-on-board fencing. If there is an underlying deed restriction, the terms of enforcement of that individual deed restriction or easement is written into the restriction. I think that I've reviewed two separate ones in West Hampton Township, and it's really both of them have slightly different structures, but it is the neighbors that are empowered to enforce that. It's not the township that enforces the deed restriction. So if neighbor at 1 Main Street erects a fence, the neighbor at 5 Main Street can file an action in Superior Court to require them to take it down or to enjoin them from erecting a fence. Does that answer your question?
It does, thank you. My thoughts are in line with Gary's. I think we're imposing a negative economic impact on certain people, so.
Anyone else?
No, I agree. I think it should be up to the homeowner.
So can we, go ahead, I'm sorry, Nancy. Or Janelle, did you guys say something?
No, I wasn't playing.
So is it fair, can we say that, can we pull, right, the deed restrictions and look at if there's any viability anyway to that, like if the deed restrictions are done correctly, they were done 30 years ago, let's see what that looks like. And then we can discuss, like, just to give everyone time, even though everyone's on board, to give time to process it for our September meeting to kind of have a vote on that. Is that fair? It's a month away.
Sandy, do we actually have an ordinance that says that? The piece of paper that I was given that talked about board on board in these 3 places gave numbers for ordinances that we have, and I looked them up, and there was no ordinance that matched that number.
The deed restriction, I think, is what's doing the board on board.
No, but what I'm saying is I was shown a piece of paper that someone said, this is where, we're not allowed, and my question is, it referred to ordinances that when I looked in the ordinance book, those ordinances were not there.
I mean, that's what we have to look at the ordinance as well as the deed restriction to see.
Do we have an ordinance, is my question.
There is an ordinance.
Yes, there's a specific code section. I believe that the references in that form that you were looking at predate the codification or the recodification of the township ordinances, and when they're recodified, they were renumbered. It's contained in the zoning ordinance, top of my head, it's something like chapter 256.
Okay.
If I'm right, it'll be a miracle. Well, maybe I'll win the lottery tonight, too.
When I searched for fences, I just couldn't find it. I might not know where to look.
I'll confirm that prior to the September meeting and provide the committee with the language that's in the code, but my recollection is that we did look into that and found it.
Yes, sir.
You
Oh, he can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's just not on? Yeah. So what I said is that I'll look into that. I do believe that it's in the zoning ordinance, and verify that and provide the committee with the exact chapter and verse prior to the next meeting.
Gary?
Can we maybe double check with, because people have to get permits, right? So would the permits be able to be pulled from the construction official? So there should be a record there, and that should have to cite whatever successor ordinance presumably is on the books. That's my guess.
I've looked into this before, I just don't have it at my fingertips right now. So when I go back to my desk, I'll pull the file and have it.
I know we've discussed it previously from other residents. So is that fair to everybody? Is everybody okay with that, for Bob to look at it and come back to us next meeting about what he's uncovered and looking to maybe make a change depending? But, what we also want to do is, if we can, when it gets closer, make sure we publicize that we're going to discuss the fences again. Because again, I've gotten a call from a resident in Deerwood that was very upset about vinyl fencing, right? So we want to make sure that if someone wants to present the other side of the coin, that they have an opportunity to do that without us making a drastic change, and then they come in later discussing about what they have or don't have. Fair enough? Anybody else?
Well, because Bob, there's nothing we can do about the deed restriction, correct? Nothing.
Correct. I was just about to say that.
Okay.
Thank you
Just
for the
wanted to
softball.
clarify. All right.
Any other questions or comments? Perfect. So we'll move forward.
All in
Approval.
favor? Doing all in favor? Close?
All in favor to close?
Aye.
Thank you, guys. Approval of meeting minutes, July 11, 2023, regular meeting minutes. Do we have a motion?
So moved. Berkeley?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Berkeley,
Yes.
Carr,
Yes.
Mungo,
Abstain.
Wright. Abstain. Mayor Henley.
Yes.
Motion carries 302.
July 11th, 2023, executive session minutes. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion.
Mayor, you are able to second the motion.
Second. Any discussion?
I cannot vote for this because there were many things that were said in that meeting that were not here. I realize the executive session minutes are not public minutes. The public is not aware of them, but I think that those of us who are not here need to know what happened and what was said in that meeting, so I cannot approve them.
Roll call?
Berkeley,
No?
Carr,
Yes.
Mungo,
Abstain.
Wright. Abstain. Mayor Henley.
Yes.
Motion carries 212.
Motion does not carry.
Oh, sorry.
Monthly reports, construction, police, fire, EMS, public works, and tax collector. We will now open the meeting to public comment on agenda items only. Please remember to state your name and address for the record. Reminder, this is a comment only. It is not intended for a question and answer period. It is, if you would like a response, please leave your contact information on the podium so that we can respond appropriately.
Anthony Getz, 109 West Maple Tree Drive. The ordinance 10-2023 for the, updating the code for chickens. Makes my wife happy. No, I mean, she's looked to do it, but we fall a little bit under the existing ordinance. And this is what's being done in other areas. I have colleagues of mine in Denver, and because of egg prices out west and stuff like that, people are doing chickens and doing their own eggs. It's a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll close on public comment. All in favor?
Aye.
Ordinance, first reading, 9-2023, an ordinance amending ordinance 12-1992, an ordinance amending the code of the Township of West Hampton to provide for licensing and regulation of towing and storage services. This is the first reading. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Roll call?
Discussion?
There is no discussion.
There's no public discussion, but there's discussion amongst us.
Okay.
I think this is good. I've heard what was in it. I talked to our lieutenant who wrote it. My concern is, it says in here, whereas the West Hampton Township Committee are in receipt of an emergency operations plan. I am not in receipt of the plan. I'm sure it's great, but if I vote yes, or if I don't, yes or abstain, I'm saying I've received it, and if we get a lawsuit depending on this, I'm
Excuse me.
responsible for it, and I'm not going to take responsibility for something I can't read. Now, between now and the
Ms.
next
Berkeley?
meeting, I'll be glad to take a look at it and read it.
Committeewoman Berkeley, what's pending before the body's introduction of ordinance 9-2023, which is the towing ordinance? I think you're referring to a resolution.
Oh, I apologize. I'm sorry.
Roll call?
Berkeley?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Mungo?
Yes.
Wright?
Yes.
Mayor Henley?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
10-2023, an ordinance amending Chapter 88 of the Township Code of West Hampton. This is the first reading. Motion and second are required. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to amend Chapter 88 of the code.
Second.
Roll call?
I've got the right motion this time. I send an email, 2 emails to our administrator, the attorney, and you, with first questions and then suggestions. I have friends who raise chickens, and there needs to be a lot more in here. Chickens can be in a coop, but they need a place to run. So chickens need a run that's 10 square feet per chicken. It doesn't say that chicken can run free in the yard, which I'm sure that the neighbors would not like. Chickens need to be fenced in so that they cannot leave the area at all. And I think that chicken coops should not be on the border. That's great for that person, but a neighbor might not want a chicken coop right on the border if their patio is 10 feet away. I think it's a good idea. I'm not against it. My grandparents had chickens, but I think it needs to be rewritten. It looks like it was written in haste. And my question was, where did this come from? Did a resident want chickens and we're making an ordinance for that? Did it come from a township committee person? Did it come from the police or the fire, or where did this come from?
A resident made the request.
Excuse me?
A resident made the request.
I think then we should have discussed it before having something come for us.
This is an
I would like to
introduction.
make a motion to table this until it can be rewritten to include all the things that are required, such as a chicken run, and things like how far away from the property, to make sure they're not freely run, so that it can be acceptable to everybody. That's my motion to table.
Any second to that motion? With no second, roll call?
Berkeley?
No?
Carr?
Yes.
Mungo?
Yes.
Wright?
Yes.
Mayor Henley?
Yes. Resolution 19-23, payment of vouchers. This resolution approves the payment of bills through 8/8/2023. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second?
Discussion? Roll call.
Berkeley?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Mungo?
Yes.
Wright?
Yes.
Mayor Henley?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
Consent agenda items are considered to be routine and will be enacted with a single motion. Any items requiring expenditure are supported by a certification of availability of funds. Any items requiring discussion will be removed from the consent agenda.
I'd like to remove E, please, 12523.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to remove C, 123-23. I make a motion to approve A through B, D, F through I.
Second motion.
Any discussion?
For which one, C?
I just motioned what, car?
Excuse me?
She's just second with OD's call.
A, B,
Okay.
E, and F through I.
And then we can pull that and discuss. when you-
Okay, second.
Roll call?
Berkeley?
Yes?
Park?
Yes.
Mungo?
Yes.
Wright?
Yes.
Mayor Henley?
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0.
And I think you wanted to discuss E, Committee Woman.
C first.
E, I already explained why. I do not have a copy, and this says that I have a copy, and I voted on knowing what's in it. So it's not that I'm against it, I just don't like to vote on things I can't read, know anything about.
There is a full copy in the Dropbox for you to view.
It wasn't there this afternoon.
For each one separately. You have to do a motion and a second for each.
At what time?
E.
But even if it was, 300 pages is a lot for me to read in 2 hours.
So can we do a motion and then a second for E?
Sure.
Do we have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
We already discussed, so roll call?
Berkeley?
Abstain?
Park?
Yes.
Mungo?
Yes.
Wright?
Yes.
Mayor Henley?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0-1.
And can we do a motion and second for C?
Motion. C. This is a motion. for C.
Committeeman Carr, pulled C. So we have one motion
Mungo.
from Mungo. I second the motion. Roll call?
Berkeley?
Yes?
Park?
Abstain.
Mungo?
Yes.
Wright?
Yes.
Mayor Henley?
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0-1.
So we now open up the meeting for public comment. Please remember to state your name and address for the record. Reminder, this is for comment only. It is not intended for a question and answer period. It would be, if you would like a response, please leave your contact information on the podium so we can respond appropriately.
I'm Michelle Miller. I'm here on behalf of the American Legion at 781 Rancocas Road. Our post received community funding grant from Congressman Kim to repair the outside of the building and paint the building and repair the porch. When the contractors came to look at the building, they found that the building also needs a roof and would have liked to complete all the work at the same time. As the grant does not cover the roof, I came to ask the township as a dead building if they would see if they had community funding to repair the roof. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Meredith Dunn, 1117 Lambert Drive. At the June 20th meeting, my neighbor Kevin Lee came and spoke with you guys about the basketball courts at Holly Hills. At that meeting, the township attorney said they had a meeting to work together to enforce the use policies, and the mayor stated that the township will assist in enforcement, and the intent of the court is for neighborhood kids to play. Since then, over a month ago, every Sunday and some Wednesdays, we've seen the inaction of enforcement for the league that plays here. Loud, rude, offensive music every Sunday from 10 to 4 or longer, whistles blowing every few minutes. There's weed that's smoked there, so much so we can smell it in our house, and cars parked on the parking lot, not in the parking lot, on the court. The township worked to get these courts updated, as best I could tell by Facebook, but since has not done the work of ensuring proper and respectful use of the courts. The league creator thanked a committee member personally on his Facebook post about the league, while also stating that the post, "Respect is always a key factor." He and I must have a different idea of respect, and considering in a month there's been no extra enforcement or help from the township, I guess you have a different idea of respect too. My idea is being able to enjoy a Sunday on my deck with my 4-year-old without him having to hear, I'm not even going to read the lyrics. They're bad. I'll just say, let's leave it at that. I understand that this league is for fun and many people enjoy it. I really do. I see them having a great time and I'm excited for them. But it is the lack of respect shown for us neighbors has made it a real problem for us. We haven't been calling the police, but I will have to start doing so every hour or more if I have to. Thank you.
Ma'am, real quick, so what happened in between there, if I may? We talked to the superintendent of schools. The superintendent, it's not a basketball court, so what happened was we received pilot money from a program, and pilots, just to give me an explanation, and pilots, the schools don't get any money from that. So we made an agreement to help the school out and do their basketball court, but the courts don't belong to us. So I know the superintendent did meet with the individual who's having the basketball games. They brought that individual and his plan in front of the school board, and the school board approved them to be able to have the basketball games. What I can do is I'll reach out to the superintendent tomorrow with your concerns, but also, what happened?
I'm sorry, it's scheduled for the school board meeting on Monday.
Okay, so they already have it scheduled for the school board meeting on Monday. So what I would suggest is to go to, and I know that you've been here, but to go to the school board meeting and address it with them. It's their basketball court. However, you are always welcome to call the police. And aside from the police, I'll come up there myself and have talked to the individuals myself when the first complaint was made, and kind of set some parameters for what the expectations were on the township's end. And then I went up there a second time, me, myself, and the superintendent and the police officer, and addressed it again. And I've also went and talked to some of the neighbors who had it backed up against their yard. So understandably, the things that you're addressing, that you're talking about, I would have an issue with that as well. I'm just giving you the steps to take to be able to fix that for yourself and to fix that for your neighbors. It's the school's ground. The schools are gonna talk about it. What'd you say, Wednesday? Monday, I'm sorry, at the school board meeting. I would address your concerns at that point, ma'am.
Am I allowed to respond?
Of course, I'm listening.
If that's the case, which I understand, because we've had issues before, and it goes back between the township or the school, whoever's taking care of it at that moment. If that's the case, then do they need a permit to be able to?
They got a permit, is my understanding. I did a follow-up, and I'm not trying to make it like I did so much work, but I did a follow-up with the superintendent after he spoke to him, because the superintendent told the gentleman to come to his office or send over certain things, I followed up with them, and when I followed up with the superintendent, supposedly they have a permit. But again, I can promise you, I will call Jim tomorrow to give him a heads up of what your concerns are. And I'm pretty sure they have a pretty short leash, is my understanding, so.
It doesn't feel strict.
No, I'm talking about once you go to the school board and let them know, because the school board probably doesn't know.
Yes, the school board meeting is Monday, the 14th.
Monday at what school?
I think they do it
The library.
Right over here at the library.
Middle school.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Sir, in the back, I know you've been waiting. Give him 1 second, Gary. Yeah, come on. We gotta get you a closer seat. Nah, I got plenty of cops here.
My name is Harper, 682 Woodland Road, West Hampton. Listen, I'm a little bit upset. Well, let me talk about the cops first. I've been knowing these cops in this town for over 40-some years that I've been living here. And now these two chiefs, I'm going to tell you about both of them. They both have done a good job. The cops in this town do an outstanding job as far as I'm concerned. And I've taken a lot of criticism from people, especially when I go to the barbershop. And I hear other brothers tell me that, well, West Hampton cops don't bother you because you live in West Hampton. Well, they claim that West Hampton cops, they don't do nothing to pick on blacks. But that's BS. I was wondering, I've never, in the time I've lived here, had either one of these two gentlemen come across to me as being just after black people only. At John Polk's funeral, this is why I'm here tonight, really. John Polk was a good cop. There was a lot of nights that my wife would wake me up because she would see John. My wife was a night person. She was always in the house at night, staring around, you know. I would be asleep because I had to go out in my truck a lot early in the morning. Well, She would see John out front. She would look out the window and John be out there by himself at 2:30 in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, with a bunch of hardheads out there in the car. She would come and wake me up and say, hey, you better get up and go outside and stand there because something's going to happen to John. I used to question John why he wouldn't call backup sometime. I would say, John, man, you got to call. You can't be out there at night like you think you're Superman, you know, stopping people like that by yourself. Well, I just want to make sure that nothing like this ever happens again in this township. John Polk died. And he was in this township a long time. But I went to his funeral last week. I didn't see any of y'all up there. Not a one of them. The chief was there. Chief Ferguson was there. Lieutenant Chief was there. I didn't see none of y'all. And don't come across with this stuff nobody told me. That's what they got records for. So my thing is, I just want to make sure that this never happens again in this township. Being a cop is a dangerous job in this world we live in today. At least we could give them the respect when they die. And especially they worked in this township for as long as they have. But I guess, no disrespect to you, sir. I know. But I guess the way the world is now, nobody has no respect for nobody else. That's the way this whole world is now. But it just upset me that, you know, I went to the chief at the funeral and I spoke to him about that. And I told him I was going to come around tonight about it. I wasn't going to get nasty. But I just think that it's sad that we got to go through that. You know, we got public records, man. And everyone on this committee, someone should have been at that funeral to hand his wife that proclamation. She shouldn't have to go through next week with a police car driving up to her house and saying, here, this is from West Hampton Township. That should have been done last week. And last thing I'm going to say is, you know, maybe I'm out of line, but politicians can all come around when there's election time and knock on your door because they want you to come out and vote for them. But it seems like other things that need to be done, they ain't around. And it needs to stop. I've been living in this town for 44 years. And I've seen them come and I've seen them go. And I'm quite sure I'm going to see a few more go. And I just wish my wife was living today so I could have brought her around here in her wheelchair so she could have told you. Because I appreciate what these cops do in this town. And I want to ask one more thing while I'm here. This resolution I see on there about 100% veterans, disabled. That's so you're trying to pass a resolution so that they will be exempt from paying taxes. I guess that's what this is about.
Yes, sir.
Well, I hope you do, because none of us in this room have an idea what it's like to be overseas somewhere, getting shot at and dying, and you make it back to this country and people treat you like shit. I go through it all the time, man. And the little bit of recognition that some of us get is terrible. And I want to finish with this one thing. The day I got back to this country and I set foot on that West Coast, first thing I heard was baby killer. Well, I still live with that every day. And you got veterans that are worse off than me. I'm a disabled veteran. But I know there's guys that are a lot worse than I am that need the benefits that they can get, and I hope you consider passing that for them. And I want to make sure that in the future, anything happens to these police officers in this township, that they're recognized for the service that they do. Because if not, I'll be back. And I may be in a wheelchair when I come back the next time. Because you know, I don't come to meetings unless there's something wrong. And when something's wrong, I show up. So that's all I got to say, man.
Fair enough. I appreciate that.
Yep, you take care.
Yep. Come on.
Gary Barbarian, 138 Winstead. I'd like to extend my congratulations to everyone in the police department. Chief Ent, congratulations. And also, I always enjoy seeing our veterans here. I said it before the last time you guys were here, and Mayor, I made the suggestion that I think it would be kind of a very interesting experience to give the honor of the pledge to a veteran in attendance. So hopefully you'll continue to come. And if there's any veteran here, maybe you would announce it and say if there's any veteran in the attendance, maybe you can give them the honor to lead the pledge. That's just a suggestion I had.
Absolutely.
I think that'd be great. And also, if you've ever been to Canada on Armistice Day, they do something very interesting to memorialize their soldiers that died in the Great War, World War I. They have a reenactor in a lot of these different public places, and they dress up in full kit, and what they do is everyone that comes into contact with them, they give them a card with the name of a deceased soldier, and they go to in a public spot right there, and they read the name aloud. I think that'd be really cool here. The name of every veteran in West Hampton gets their name read aloud at every meeting or quarterly or however often it's appropriate. But I think that'd be a wonderful thing. We could honor our veterans, remember their service and sacrifice. There's a gentleman back there with the Korean War veteran hat. My father is buried in Arlington. He's a Korean War veteran. Thank you. A couple of other thoughts. I know, Mayor, you like to be agnostic, and I totally understand that. The moment of silence, I think, was very appropriate. I was hoping to hear maybe you would also extend a moment of silence for our Lieutenant Governor that passed away, and I know she's going to be lying in state on the 10th. Perhaps you'll be in attendance, or someone from our township will send appropriate condolences. I'm assuming so. So my condolences to Lieutenant Governor and her family. I saw a note about Samantha. Is that true?
Yep.
All right. So what'd probably be appropriate would be a farewell for her.
Thank you.
So let's plan that. Right? Okay. I do want to talk about the accident that occurred on July 28th, right behind my house on Springside Road. Some of you are familiar with that accident, and I said to the chief that his guys did a great job. Fire and EMS did a great job as well. One issue, though, that I did want to bring up, which I felt was appropriate, was, and I got to feel proud of my fellow residents, everyone went out there to assist. There was a man who was very badly injured, and everyone was trying to figure out what to do, but everyone was calm. And they always tell you in an emergency is everyone has to have a job. You call 911. You keep the, vehicles in that direction. You assist those people. You calm those people down. You stop that car from leaving, et cetera, et cetera. Everybody seemed to know how to do that. So we should be very proud of our residents here. But in an accident, I don't really know what happens post-accident in the sense that whether or not they're going to do any kind of investigation to reconstruct that accident. So there was a lot of debris. And when I went to the first responders, because some of us went to go grab some, brooms and dustpans because it was scattered all over the place. Glass, broken glass. And the response was, you don't have to do that because the tow truck driver will clean it up. The tow truck driver got there, but he literally had one small broom, and he wasn't cleaning up all the debris. So I called the township, and I said, hey, there was an accident. You might want to maybe try to arrange to have Public Works come out, deploy the appropriate personnel, the equipment, i.e. the street sweeper, because there's a lot of debris scattered all over. The response I got back was a little bit troubling. It was, that's an accident. They wanted me to call the police. Do you need the phone number of the police department? That was the help that I got. So I think there just needs to be a little bit of different thinking on that. When a citizen calls in, that person, whoever answered, should say, I'll arrange to have the appropriate department head, kind of follow up, and not make me, the citizen, then have to try to figure out what the phone tree is to who I can call to make sure. Because making a call back to the police department would just be recursive at that point, because they were already on scene, and they already said the tow truck driver was going to do it, and I'm going to see that that's not an appropriate response here. So that's just my comment about that. Thanks, guys. And also, just briefly, I appreciate what you did on the workshop for the fences. It really means a lot to me. It means a lot to my neighbors, so thank you for holding that.
Terrence Brown, 9 Pine Tree Drive. First, I just want to congratulate the police chief again on his retirement, and for them planning such an awesome national night out. It was seeing you guys there. It was just a wonderful opportunity for the community to get out on that night, and the community seemed to like, being out and being involved and seeing their other community members. So one of the comments I have tonight for the township committee is, what are we doing about planning more community events? It seems like the residents want to get out and they want to meet. It seems like the township hasn't had an official organized meeting in the past couple of years, but this National Night Out seemed to kind of brought some settlement back to the community, and people really enjoy, seeing each other and speaking to people and, being able to just walk around and meet different vendors. So maybe that can be something in consideration for the future. I'd also like to do a comment on if the township can maybe start like town hall meetings where the community come out and discuss some of their concerns or make suggestions instead of, people calling individual council people and, ordinances are being, generated to go down to the platform, and we can probably hear some of these concerns. And the reason I state that is because me, growing up on a farm, I love chickens. When I moved here, I bought my almost 4-acre property so I can put chickens on them. But a lot of my residents had concerns about, roosters being able to, hollering at a certain time of the day. So, I had to respect that at that time. So even though, I'm for chickens, I think there needs to be a lot of discussion around that because people have legitimate concerns about, the chickens and the animals, making different noises, and they're trying to get their rest in peace. So I would rather, have an open discussion than, actually putting something or having something pass through and people then are thinking about it in the back end. Because if I move next to you, Mayor, and put chickens in my backyard and have my hen hollering, eventually...
You have to be bad to move next to me. Something had to fall apart. Somebody had to lose their job.
Oh, man, yes, sir. All right, thank you so much again.
I don't want to walk up again. I just want to say something about what he was saying to the ministry. We used to have a West Hampton Day every year in this township, every September. It stopped when the pandemic struck. Maybe that's a way of looking back and trying to start that up again, so that, like you said, the township can pull together and people will be out and meet other people. It may be something that you may want to look into.
Yes, sir.
Anthony Getz, 109 West Maple Tree Drive. Congratulations, Chief. Future Chief has big shoes to fill. The National Night Out, great event. Good seeing everybody back together again. Kids had a blast. It was good seeing the new Public Works equipment. Talked to some of the guys. They were happy to receive it. And my understanding, it arrived that day. But everybody that was involved in taking care of that event, good job. It was good seeing it back, the big event that we had in the past. Thank you.
Anyone else? Closed for public comment. All in favor?
Aye.
Next Township Committee meeting is September 5th at 7 p.m. Historic Commission is August 23rd at 7 p.m. Land Development Board meetings at September 6th at 7 p.m. Recreation Committee meeting is August 9th at 7 p.m. Timbuktu Advisory Committee meetings August 12th. Is it at 10 a.m. or 11 a.m.?
11.
11 a.m. Timbuktu will be September 3rd, and we're still working on time after we have the meeting. The administrator's report.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I want to say huge thank you to Chief Ent. He has always gone above and beyond, and he's been incredibly loyal to this township, and he's always willing to drop everything and run to help us at any time. So a huge thank you and congratulations on your retirement. You're going to be so desperately missed, but we know that it's falling into good hands, and we know that your successor will be well trained by you. So we have faith that your legacy will continue. The report of concern button was added to the township's homepage. We had it on the code enforcement page, but I added it as a main button so residents can just go straight to the homepage if they want to fill out a code enforcement concern. It is live, so they can start doing that right away. Playground equipment for Spring Meadows. We are still waiting for it to deliver. We have been working with the vendor. Apparently there are shipping issues. We've been leaning on them pretty hard, but I do want to say that Public Works has been addressing any of the structural issues that need repair. So they're keeping an eye on the pieces that are breaking. They're trying to keep it so that we don't have any liability or anyone getting hurt on the current equipment while we wait for this delivery. So it is in process. We are leaning on them. We're putting pressure on them. We're trying to get it here. Unfortunately, right now our hands are tied. We're just trying to do the best that we can to work with them. National Night Out was great. I've thoroughly enjoyed having it in one static location this year. As you know, I came in right at the pandemic, so we didn't have a National Night Out the first year, and then the second and third years that I was here, it was in multiple locations, but it was great to see everybody in one location, and I hope we can continue to do that going forward. And that's all I have for you.
Any committee liaison reports or comments?
I want to also congratulate Chief Ent. I think we met when I was on the rec committee over 10 years ago, and I mean, you've made a great impact in this community, myself as well, so congratulations, and I hope, we all wish for retirement one day, so, lucky you. But well worth it, a lot of time and hard effort to get there. Congratulations also to our sergeant that was sworn in tonight. It's great seeing, the force getting larger and everybody kind of moving up, so that's awesome. National Night Out, another big, huge props to the police department and the fire that helped, organize that. I think it was police, but very nice. I love having it all in one spot. It used to be behind my house at the fire department, but it was great. I loved it too, so. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd also like to congratulate Chief Ent on your long and safe career. You're a true public servant and a true leader. You will be missed. Thank you. Congratulations to Sergeant Renfield as well. I'd like to highlight that Director Taylor is working with PSE&G. I think he noted in his report that a resident raised a concern about PSE&G's scorched earth policy when it comes to trimming trees. I hope we come to a resolution on that. Thanks, Director. That's all I have, sir.
Anyone else?
I'd like to say congratulations to Chief Ent. I remember when I first started, I left my lights were on my vehicle, and the resident reported it, and they said, oh, who has that? And I was like, wait, that's my car. And I was getting ready to take off, and he came up and said, here, give me your keys, I got it, and turned it off. You stuck out to me then, so I appreciate that. I've only been here a short time, but you've always given a great big smile, assisted when my sugar's low. And I just appreciate the work, and I just want you just to enjoy your retirement. I know your family is absolutely thrilled, so enjoy. They'll probably get you a little sick of you at times, so. But congratulations to you. And I'm sorry also, congratulations to the officer that was sworn in today, Officer Redfield.
Chief, you're going to be missed. You really are. I mean, I've been here in meetings well before I was up here, and they go to executive committee, and we get to chat and learn more about you, and you've just done everything. You've trained all these police people to do such an excellent job, and I hope you just don't go far. Congrats to Sergeant Redfield. It's nice to know that we have a lieutenant now that grew up in West Hampton. It's nice to have real West Hampton homegrown people, and I love it when we hire people that live in West Hampton, which makes me sad that, Samantha, you're going. You always have a smiley face, you're always friendly to people, you're always helpful, and I'll miss that. One of my committees is senior citizens, and we're doing something in recreation that helps them. Anybody can really come, but there is a low-impact exercise class at 1 p.m. on Tuesdays. It's only $5 a class, and even though it's low impact, you'll get a workout. And this is going to be every Tuesday at 1 o'clock, so anyone who's home on Tuesdays is welcome to come. And there's no jumping up and down or bouncing or rolling around on the floor when you can't get up, so I'm happy about that. The other liaison I am is to the school, which means it's my responsibility to find out what's going on at the school, talk to the school about any concerns we have. The board meeting, as already was said, had a presentation from Gauntlet Athletics. They want to use the men's basketball court, the league, from Sunday morning to early afternoon. There was much concern at the meeting. They also want to do youth camps and programs and use our gyms, which one of the board members brought up, wait a minute, we have our rec program in the gyms. We just can't all of a sudden give gyms to an outside company, and then we're left with nothing. So I even met with Mr. Jim afterwards, and he assured me that West Hampton comes first, West Hampton Schools, West Hampton Recreation comes second, and anything outside of that, especially outside of West Hampton, comes third. So I was happy to know that, and he's working with Todd to get times for the gyms. School is still planning to open on September 7th. The construction priorities are the roof, the HVAC, and the security and the phones. Getting back to the basketball court, the Board of Education had some requirements for them. They're required to have porta-pot johns. I have heard they have not had them yet. I'm hoping that they would get them soon so that people are not using other people's lawns to do their thing. They're not allowed to have any alcohol. They're not allowed to do any kind of smoking at any time because it's school property. The board is going to add more trash cans, and hopefully they will use them. Gauntlet Athletics agreed to pay a fee to use the courts, and they're required to have $1 million in insurance. There's an understanding that is the school property, and that's been told to me 20 times, that it's the school's property. We can talk to them, but we cannot tell them what to do. So I agree with the mayor that really the best place to go and talk is at the Board of Education meeting. Although we can stand behind you, we can send our police, we can send people to check and make sure that they have what they're supposed to have, but it is the board's responsibility. And they did set down the rules. So it's their responsibility to make sure those rules are, and they're also not allowed to swear. I don't know how you're going to check that, but they were told there's no swearing on the courts, because we have neighbors. This week I met Alexander Halter, our new deputy clerk, just to walk in and say hi, welcome to West Hampton. She's such a young, enthusiastic person and is excited to be here in West Hampton, so I'm excited about her. So, that is it. Thank you.
Nancy, I do have a question.
Yes.
Whose responsibility is it to pay for the porta potties? Is it West Hampton Township paying for it?
Whose responsibility to pay for what?
The porta potties.
Court costs.
Porta potties.
It is the Gauntlet Athletics.
Whoever's using it.
Whoever, the group that's using it. They have
Check with them. I don't think, so last time and this is not one of those things, just check with them, because my understanding is that either the schools are paying for it, the school's going to pay for it, or recreation is going to pay for it, so that it's there all the time. So Gauntlet pays for it, then it's only going to be there when they play basketball. But that's an ongoing issue. Like, even if you have kids out there playing basketball, then where are they going to go to the restroom at? So my understanding is either the schools or the recreation, and the reason why recreation talked about paying for it was because we already have some that we pay for, and we can get a discounted price, and was just to be a good neighbor. It wasn't an over-the-top amount of money. So just make sure that you have a conversation with them and make sure, who's paying for it, and kind of set those boundaries, because I don't think that Gauntlet's paying for it.
I'll ask, but maybe Gauntlet is reimbursing them for Sundays, whatever, when they're using it.
Maybe.
I don't know, but I was told by the superintendent that.
Yeah, maybe it's part of their fee.
Could be a fee.
It could be a part of the fee.
Excuse me?
No, maybe it's a part of their fee, like the fee, yeah.
It could be.
Yeah,
But I'm glad that they're requiring that they have them.
absolutely. So, just a few quick things, congratulations, Chief. I know I've had a lot of contact with you, and the one thing that I can really say, that I can see continuously going on, is that anytime I reach out to you, and it's been times, like, a perfect example is the basketball courts. I reached out to the chief, it was a Sunday at 5 o'clock, and maybe it was like 3 o'clock, but I'm calling the chief because I'm like, if somebody's calling me at 3 o'clock on a Sunday, I'm calling you too. And he was able to answer, and we were able to talk it out. And I can tell you 90% of the time, that's what happens with him. And if he doesn't answer the phone, then he'll call back in a few minutes, or he'll send a text, like, I'm in the middle of reffing the game, or I'm umping the game, and I'll give you a call back in a little bit. So, the fact that we have an open communication is something that I can't say that I'm going to miss about you, but I know I won't miss it through the transition of our new chief, because our new chief does exactly the same thing. So for the few things that I've had to reach out to him for, and I have his phone number on my phone as well, he's always answered, been polite. And I think that even going from, in my tenure, Chief Otto, it all kind of starts from the top. And to set the example, to pass it along, it's been great to be a part of that. As far as congratulations to our sergeant, and even our new policeman coming over. You think I had a conversation with you that we've had a history prior to Chief Ed, where we would get police officers, we would train them up, and they would leave. But I had the pleasure of getting a text message from someone at a different police district, and that remained nameless, and they said, stop taking our officers. So a lot of the officers that we are getting now are officers that we're now taking instead of losing. And I think that is something that's great about our leadership, and that we're putting great officers out on the road to help with our township and our citizens. I have to say, and I'll take responsibility for this, that, I am a bit embarrassed about the Officer Polk situation, and there's no excuse for that. There's 5 of us up here, and no matter how long our tenure it is, it did ring with me. I mean, obviously, me and Mr. Harper had a conversation in the back, and it didn't stand out as much as this passion for what it was up here. And I give Mr. Harper a lot of credit, because he is correct. When he has an issue, he addresses it, fairly or unfairly. And he'd tell you, just like I would tell you, him and I have a relationship, right, outside of this. So for him to come up here and for him to discuss that without, and we could have a discussion off record. Listen, I appreciate that. That's something he has a passion about. And sitting up there listening to him, it just resonated to me that I owe him and I owe you an apology. I should have been there, or somebody else should have been there. So, I apologize for that. And we'll try to put some things in place to make sure that doesn't happen again. Lastly, you talked about the community things. We circulated on this thing, kickball, for the last month. We got nobody to sign up. Nobody to sign up for kickball. We got some officers that we're trying to sign up. Poor Wendy's going to play. I tried to recruit Samantha. We got Jamie's going to play. Jamie says she can kick, but she can't run. I don't know what that means. You know what I mean? So
She can kick.
she can kick. I don't know how you play like that. So Odie's supposed to play. He doesn't strike me as a guy that can kick the ball far. So what I'm saying is that we're trying to win and bring a trophy home. And we put it out there for many residents for a mere $25, which now I think I'm covered the whole thing. But anyway, a mere $25 to Jersey and do something in the community and go against, a lot of communities, and it's for a good, it's for a good cause. So although it's easy for us to say, well, we could do this, we could do that. We've done some things. We've done if stones could talk over there. We had 80 people come out in 97-degree weather, right? And we've circulated that 1 million times. We circulated on 1 million pages, 2 likes, 3 likes, 2 likes, 3 likes. And everybody who talks, nobody's there. So I'm not saying that to pull anybody out. I'm saying that what I'm saying is that we are trying, right? And we can only spread ourselves thin but so much. Listen, I was there that morning when the construction people came, right? The same as the basketball courts, being there a few times and all different areas that this township has. I think that we try to do the best we can. And I keep reiterating that you guys got to remember, we're just like you. We live right in this town. So when people are like, well, my taxes are going up, guess what? My taxes went up too. Right? But if we're not going to do any construction, which, hey, I told you guys a long time ago, we don't have to, but somebody's going to break. Because 80% of roughly 80% of our budget is paying the people who work for the township. Under contractual agreements, they're going to continue to get raises. So what are you going to do? So just some food for thought, what to think about. I do ask that for our next meeting that we have a discussion about the VFW. When we talk about our past, the VFW, along with those basketball courts, a resident complained about the basketball courts over and over again. That's why we did that. Another resident complained about the way our VFW looks and how, in essence, we are treating our veterans. So, American Legion. I apologize, guys. I got to get better. So, and what we can do for them, I mean, we can talk about it. We do have our community redevelopment funds, and we do own the building. So maybe we can put our heads together and kind of figure out what we can do to help not only build the roof, but if anybody's interested, I'm sure you ladies will be more than happy to let some citizens walk through the building and see what it looks like inside as well. So I kind of think that we might want to sit down and look at redoing the whole building. It's been a very long time since we've touched that. And I would like to say what the other thing is, but I don't understand my handwriting. What's that say? So with that being said, we have a motion to adjourn?
7.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
What could that have been?
What I wrote? There's no telling. The thing